Hello and welcome to Precious Moments. My name is Busisiwe Nomaswazi Wagwagnene. Thank you so much to everyone that has subscribed to our channel. Please like, share and subscribe. Today on our show, we have a very special guest and we are honored to have our first author, Miss Felicia Goosen, who has published a book called Prison Child. Felicia, welcome to Precious Moments.
Thank you so much for having me, Bruce. It's such an honor.
Great stuff. Felicia, so in 1994, your mom, Vanessa Goosen, was 21 at the time. She was imprisoned for smuggling drugs out of Thailand. And basically, that's where she gave birth to you. Do you want to tell us about that before we delve deeper into who Felicia is and why you wrote the book?
Yes. So my mother, Vanessa Goosen, was set up as a drug mule. And at that time, she was pregnant with me. So she and my father, they had a clothing store in Carlton Center. And they decided to pursue the material in Thailand. So there's a guy called Obi who came in the store. So he was always dressing smart and they loved his material that he wore with his suits. And he then told them that he gets his material in Thailand. And my mother, Vanessa, then decided to go. And at that time, she was in the semi-finalists of Miss SA.
Wow.
And she then went over. And when she was there, Obi called her and asked her if she can just bring engineering books for him because he's studying engineering. And she said, sure. So he said his brother's there and his brother will drop it. So his brother did. So on the way to the airport coming back, they took a pocket knife and they put it in the spine of the book and the powder came out.
Oh,
so they discovered it was heroin that was hollowed out within the textbooks. So
Goodness.
she was then arrested.
So she didn't even know that
No.
she was smuggling, hey? Because for her it was just transporting books, obviously for somebody whom they've built a relationship over time because I suppose Obi supported or was a client rather at the shop.
Yes, I'm not 100% sure about that, but yes, I think it's the same. Like if you go abroad and you ask someone, oh, please bring me this, I have a friend there, innocently. So she advocates for, just be careful of, actually don't take anything for anyone when traveling. So that's it was an unfortunate. And when she went to prison, she realized so many young women have gone through that.
That's right.
So sometimes they just use you with a small amount. So someone else passes through. So she mentioned that they will send you a photo. So they're waiting for you.
Yes, yes. Sure. So I suppose that's why, mostly when you check in, they'll always ask you if you packed your own bag because you would know what's in your suitcase.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about Felicia. Who is Felicia?
Wow.
We're gonna get to the book. We're gonna get to Prison Child. Let's find out who Felicia is. What makes you tick? Because I know the book is somehow emotional because we're going to take you back to all those years. So let's first find out who's Felicia. What makes Felicia tick?
Wow. I always struggle with this question.
Take your time.
It's so broad. But I guess Felicia is someone who loves life. Someone who values it, values time, and someone who knows that majority of the decisions are in my hands.
Yes.
Because I've learned through life that I'm the only one that can basically make my path a good one, or I can look at the bad, because there's so many things that happen in life.
True.
But we have to choose what we will focus on. So I've learned a lot in life to focus on the things I can control and let go of the things I cannot.
Yeah.
So I am a person of faith. I love the Lord with my whole heart.
He loves you too.
And he loves me so much more. And I'm a wellness counselor. I specialize in youth mental health and wellness, and a life coach, a certified life coach. So I love helping people heal and helping them from healing build the life that they want.
Yeah.
And lastly, an author. And I'm a friend and a
Yes,
sister.
yes, yes. Oh, wow. Okay, great. So we'll get into the mental health part later on. So what compelled you to write the book?
Wow. So I knew when I was younger, maybe let's say 17, 16, 17,
Yeah.
I knew in my heart that I would like to write a book. And at that time, I wanted to write just to get my feelings out because I felt maybe writing will help me.
Yes.
But I didn't get to it because I thought about it. I'm like, how's this book going to end? It'll still end miserable. So what hope am I giving to anyone?
Yeah.
So I left it, but I knew at some point it will come. But I thought maybe in my 50s, when I really lived life
Retire.
and experienced life.
Yes.
So last year, I had a few clients and they all had the similar issues or problems, and they all felt alone. And then I realized that I'm sitting here knowing the truth about everything, and mental health, especially youth mental health, is so stigmatized. Mental health in general.
Yes, true.
But now you're saying that young people need support. But what do? Have to go to school, come back, that's it. They don't have problems. And I realized that I'm that voice. So I prayed, I'm like, God, you know when the right time is. And then I said, okay, if you want me to write it, you will bring the right people at the right time.
Yes.
So God did. And then I wanted to run. Because I'm like, I thought it was later on in life. And then it was definitely what am I able to say? I'm young. What is it that, why would people, like when the doubt or question like, why me?
Yes.
How can I have something to say? So I decided that, okay, I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for all those out there who feel alone, who feel misunderstood, who feels like if their life has been difficult and they don't have a future, I wanted them to know that they do. Because sometimes life is hard.
Yes, extremely.
But there's always light. We have strength in ourselves, to conquer, to still live a life that we would like. And also to bring awareness, because many people do not understand mental illness. And also I wanted to highlight for those who are orphaned or fostered, to say what love really is. Because sometimes you look for it in your biological parents, and then you don't realize the people you have around. So that's why I decided to write it, and it was hard. It was difficult.
How long did it take you to finish the book?
So I had a co-author, Dionette. So she documented, because I could not write
I can
it
imagine.
On my own. So for 2 weeks I was in Montague documenting everything, every single day, the entire day. It is not easy. By day 2 I was about to give up. It was too hard. So I worked very hard on anxiety and the panic attacks I used to have, and after a few years there I am getting anxiety and panic attacks.
Tell us about that. What led to you having the panic attacks? Or maybe when you were writing the book at the time, was it the thoughts of you being in prison? In fact, maybe before we get to the panic attacks, because I want to group that with your work with regards to youth mental health and development. So maybe let's go back a notch, where the title of the book, Prison Child. How did you come up with the title?
The title of the book, Prison Child, that the publishers.
Yeah.
So when they sent me the name of the book, I was like, no, I don't like it. I don't want it. Because it was so real. Yes. And we always run away from our realities. Yes. Because we're just afraid of what people might say, the stigmas, and I'm with you, yeah. Yes. And then I just felt like, here's a naming label again. And I told them no. But then I really sat with it and I thought about it. And I'm like, but it's so true. Yes. And not only does the book speak about the literal prison. Yes. It speaks about the prison that I was stuck in, the mental prison, yes. So for a long time, I was a prison child as I grew older. And that's why healing is important.
What are your memories of, having been born in prison, growing up in prison until you were 3 years old, and having been to be sent back to South Africa?
So I don't have like solid memories because I was young.
Yes.
But I do have vivid moments. So when I grew older, I did not remember a big part of that time.
Yeah.
But I knew, like when you think about home,
Yes.
you have a feeling.
Yeah.
So I whenever I thought about the prison, I had a cozy feeling. It was never a cold feeling or
Yes.
what we know prison as, because
Yeah.
it was technically my home.
Yeah.
And it was all I knew. But there was love, there was, it was normal. Even though it was not normal. It was
Yes,
normal
but
for
it was
me.
normal for you. Yes, because I think also because, when they talk about an umbilical cord between you and your mother, because she was there, you were in her presence at the time, so that mother-child love was there. So I suppose that's basically one of the reasons that made you feel like that.
Yes, and the guards, the inmates, they all loved me. Like so much.
You're lovable.
Thank you. They all love me, and up until today I speak to a few of them.
Really?
They took me as their child as well. They took care of me because my mother Vanessa had to work.
Yeah.
So a few mothers took care of me, and I have letters that they wrote. This one taught me that they always looked after me. There were a few of them that my mother trusted that would look after me. Until today, they feel that connection as I'm their daughter.
So you spoke Thai?
Yes.
Can you still speak Thai? How do you say hello in Thai?
Savarika.
Savarika. Okay, so take us through that moment or the day when you had to leave prison, if you do remember. I mean, I know you were very young, but when you left the prison, coming back to South Africa, having to go and live with your mom's friend and her husband, what was that like?
So those memories came back when I was 19 years old. So that's where everything flooded, and that was like my final attempt of suicide, to say, okay, I can't handle that. So at 19 years old, I realized what that 3-year-old went through.
Yeah.
The fact that a 19-year-old cannot handle it, what did that poor 3-year-old go through? So I felt like someone ripped my heart out of my chest. And I knew that at that time, leaving the prison was when my life changed.
Yes.
Where that kid is gone. I always felt after that like a grown-up in a tiny body, and you can't do much because you're young.
Yeah.
And always worrying about, because for some reason I knew that my mother Vanessa used me as her strength, like I was her strength. Because there were like vivid moments where, it's like someone is pulling strength from you or hope for you. Because I'm sure so many mothers like get up and go again because of their children.
True.
So it was that, and I was worried. Yeah, I was worried as a kid. So that is not normal.
Yeah.
So that's basically, I knew that has changed my life, because then I obviously started getting sick. I had to integrate. My foster family would tell me, it was very hard, and I wanted to be away from my foster mother, because apparently they feel like I felt that she took away from me from my biological mother.
I see.
So I guess for them as well, like I couldn't imagine this kid that is fluent in Thai, has grown up in a prison, afraid of so many things that's supposed to be normal for a child.
Did they have other children where you had to, create or make a bond with those children, and then there'd always maybe be that stigma? I mean, how did the children relate to you?
So when they picked me up, they had a daughter my age, So she's born in Feb, I'm in October.
Ah.
So we're the same age.
Yes.
And she took me as, she was protective over me. She
Good.
looked
That's nice.
over me, and my foster parents never treated us differently. I never ever felt like they loved her more than me. It was more of a me problem, because I
Yes.
knew these are not my parents.
Yes, yes.
And I knew that, okay, maybe I can't be as free, but I could. But,
It's
you know.
the voices.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So it was nice having someone my age around.
Yeah, yeah. So I suppose life back in SA and compared to Thailand, you can't really, tell the difference, because in Thailand you were young, behind bars, and in South Africa you free, but not emotionally free, because you felt that they took you away from your mom. Was there ever a point where you at some point then decided, okay, I'm going to accept this life with these foster parents and my new sister, and block everything that happened in Thailand? Was there ever a moment where you blocked everything that happened in Thailand and then tried to live your life as a South African with your foster parents, and not blaming your foster mother for taking you away from your mom?
So I think I only blamed them when I was younger, because I couldn't understand. Because I guess it was in between your biological mother gave you away or them taking you.
Yes.
So I guess the easy one was them taking me away. When I got older and understood more, so I did visit Thailand like when I was 5 years old, and so they took me over.
Okay.
And I think my brain done it for me to survive. The older I became and people asked more questions, because my foster family is light-skinned and I was the only dark-skinned. So of course, and I look different, very different. So there were always questions. Okay, so they always had to explain, no, we taking care of her. And obviously now at school with my sister, we're the same age. How are you the same age? You look different. You can't be twins. And how did your mother get pregnant? You see it like logistically, kids are smart.
Yes.
So then I made up a story that my mother, Vanessa, she's on business. She's this model and businesswoman.
Yes.
So I made this whole story.
Good for you.
And and then I said my biological father passed away, because I think it was less painful believing that than this man is just walking around not wondering where his daughter is.
I was about to ask, where was your biological father during all of this?
He was around,
continuing with his life?
I guess. And I mean, I asked him, where has he been? And he said he was picking up his life. He was figuring himself out. So I guess he has his own story to tell.
Yeah. Probably it was hard for him as well.
Yes. And with the whole situation. So then I'm like, okay, so he came when I was 15. So he was there apparently when I came to South Africa.
Yeah.
And he came a few times. But then there was a gap when I was older. Maybe from 8 up. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Yeah. Sure. So you went back and forth visiting your mom. Any traumatic or triggers? Did you get to a certain point maybe to say, what, I'm done. I don't want to keep this visiting in and out of South Africa to Thailand? Or were all the visits pleasant?
So Thailand, the mission to get a visit, going to the embassy, every time you go there, there's different rules. You can't do this, you can't do that, you have less time. They search you. So there's so many, but a part of it felt home, so it didn't feel weird or anything. I done it because I knew how important it is to her.
Yes.
And my foster parents, it's the same like the writing letters. Like there was a point where I'm like, you write and it gets to her, then it comes like a month, 2 months. You know how a lot happens in between there.
Yeah.
So then I thought like I'm trying to move on with my life and I'm struggling. So I stopped writing. So my foster parents would always encourage me, you know, like it means a lot for her. But there's a point where I stopped writing letters, so I still went to visit because I knew that it meant a lot for her. So in 2019, I went back to Thailand.
Yeah.
Because I felt there's a big part of my life missing, and there's something called exposure therapy, where you expose yourself to the situation that brought trauma.
Yeah.
So at that time, of course, my mother Vanessa was released by then. So I went for the first time, going there without her being there.
Yes.
So I went there. I went to see the other South African woman. I went to speak with them, and then when I got there, a lady put her hand on the glass. So visits are not like South Africa, where you can sit and contact. So there's a glass, and then
just like
there's
in the
holes,
and
there's bars.
Yeah.
So there's no touching. You can't. So imagine flying all the way, and that's all you have.
Sure.
So then she put. So my mother Vanessa, when the visit was ending, she used to put her hand on the glass. And then I put my hand on the glass. Yeah. So as time went, they had phones. So before there was no phones with the embassy visits, so they moved me to the normal visits. So the phone cuts. So the only way that would say bye, because you're like in the middle of stuff. So this lady done that, and then I was like
emotional,
triggered.
Yeah.
And that happened. Then all the emotions just flooded.
Sure.
And then I realized this is why my brain blocked it. It was traumatic.
I can imagine. You know? Because you're coming all this way, and here's this. It's like watching a movie. Because I mean, it happens only in the movies where there's a person sitting across from you, and you know the only mode of communication is through the little holes.
Yeah.
And the only way to touch is through the glass.
Yeah, and
you're strong.
And I think
you're very strong.
I think I was forced to be.
Jeez.
And I think the worst part was having to leave my family in SA, go alone. So sometimes the air hostess, like, you know, the assistants, or missionaries. I would go with missionaries. So having to leave now your safe space, having to not be with your family. And then I realized my mother Vanessa was always a stranger, because I left her when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
So I was visiting someone I hardly knew, but I knew that. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, I hear you.
You hear me.
I hear you. Yeah.
So you leave. Then when I come back, then of course I leave, and I don't want to break down because I feel like I need to be strong for
her.
So it was the same that happened when I was 3 years old. When I left, I felt like as a 3-year-old, and that's when the memories, I couldn't break down. Like at that moment, I had to be strong for her. And it happened, so I was re-traumatized every single time. Sure. So then I went to cry when I got back or on the plane. Then when I got home, I had to reintegrate again into like, you know, what's happening with her. Having to adjust again. So that happened when I used to come back, and also happened when the social worker would visit. So it's not a bad, because social workers need to visit. At least my social worker was on point.
Good.
You know, and then she would take me for walks. She was like, are you happy? Are you any abuse? Any things like that? But that just reminded me like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess there's...
I'm being fostered. Okay, so I'm going to read an extract from your book. Seeing the photographs of myself as a little girl holding on to the bars of the cells in Ladiao while looking outside upsets me greatly. I can feel the pain of that little girl. The photos brought back the pain this girl felt when she had to leave her mom and all the inmates she loved. These were the women to whom I spoke Thai fluently, the language in which I was brought up. There is another image that often haunts me as a little girl in Ladiao looking at my mother. Of course, I did not know what she was thinking, but I could see that she was sad. Another clear memory is the image of myself leaving the prison after visiting my mother, when I felt I had to be strong for her sake and not look back when I walked out that door, the door to freedom.
Oh, that's deep.
So you were not really free.
Yeah.
In essence. Because you were trapped between two worlds.
Yeah.
The one you were looking back because you wanted your mom and the love of the women, you know, who brought you up. But also now going to South Africa because you have foster parents who take care of you, but they're not your mother, ultimately, at the end of the day. Do you still get upset now as you're sitting here when you look at some of the photographs from the past?
No. So I went for therapy. And so what happened is I dissociated myself from 3-year-old.
Okay.
So I viewed it as, because of the pain.
Yes.
I viewed it as, that's not me.
Yes, yes.
You know, that's someone else, but that's a problem.
Because you need to deal with it.
I need to deal with
and
it.
Own up and own it.
And accept.
And accept your truth.
Yes, because it was a part of my life. It's me.
Yeah.
I went through that. So it was, I think, a year of intense therapy where they had to make us one person.
Yes.
And from then on, I then started healing. You know, and I chose to heal.
Have you, according to you, would you say that you've completely 100% healed? Or are there moments or days or some triggers now and again, you know, when, as an example, you know, when you love someone and then the relationship is no longer there, but there's that special song that reminds you of that person, your heart will always skip a beat, but you've moved on, but there's just that little reminder. So the healing, have you completely, or there's just now and again, it's not intense, you know, or there are some intense moments, but you know, all you can do is just shed a tear and be thankful that, look, I've moved on, I've dealt with the pain, I've accepted, and I've made the 3-year-old Felicia and this current Felicia one person, and I've accepted that she's grown up now, you know, and she's helping other young women out there who are dealing with the same pain, you know.
What I can say is that healing is a process.
Yeah.
Right? It's not linear. It's zigzag.
Yeah.
Something might trigger you. Let's say when I get married and I have a child, something might surface, right? That I might not have because my environment is different. It will bring up different things. So I always use healing as an onion. It's layered.
Yes.
But what I can say in terms of prison and the past, those things I healed from.
Yeah.
Saying that, it means it wasn't the prison that brought me trauma.
Yes.
It was the transition from prison to the real world that did.
Yeah.
And that was just a catalyst, like everything in our life. Maybe you might have been in an accident. Maybe you might have lost a loved one. You know, we experience a lot of hurt and pain and trauma in different ways.
Yes.
So that's mostly the catalyst. It's the emotions and the feelings and the beliefs afterwards that we form because of that experience. And then we build it, and then we don't speak about it. And that is what caused a lot of what I struggled with.
Yeah.
Especially the disappointment, the rejection, things like that. And that's why we encourage people to heal.
Yeah.
Because if you isolate and you keep that situation, you keep it to yourself, shame will come. You know, feelings of that I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
That I can't trust, people don't love me. All of those things come from taking the beliefs out of an experience.
Yes.
So I've challenged a lot of those beliefs, you know, one of which was I'm a mistake. So because of the situation, and because I couldn't understand, like, how could a father not want the child? So when I grew up, I then started blaming my mother, biological mother, for giving me up. But it's not in her control, but regardless,
Yes.
it still felt the same.
Because you needed something to believe in, to assist in your
to
belief,
help
understand what's going on. Yeah.
And therefore, my father reject me, so that means I'm a mistake. Their parents or their family, where are they? Why don't they want me? So that means I'm a mistake. Why am I born? Why am I suffering like this? Because of course that childhood got taken away because of that transition.
Yeah.
And now I can't be as happy as the other kids. Like, why do I have to go through this? And I had constant leg pains. It was just very different. I struggled with school. So it was always like, why me? So that belief of that I'm a mistake, and I believed that until I was 19. And then when I realized that these things don't define me, I'm not a mistake.
Yes.
I have so much worth. I have so much that makes me me. These things cannot define me. And same like being unworthy, feeling unloved. All those beliefs that nothing good will happen for me, or happiness is not for me. So I had to unlearn all of these beliefs. I had to challenge it.
Yes.
And as well with the anxiety and depression and chronic ulcers and chronic pain, I was on medication so much. I was addicted to alcohol. There's a lot that came from that.
So take us through that phase of being getting addicted to alcohol. What led you to start drinking, and then getting addicted, and then the panic attacks, and how did you manage to overcome all of that again at some point?
Okay, so sometimes we want to look for an escape to ease the pain. So mine was alcohol.
Yeah.
I tried weed, but
who taught you to drink alcohol, or who gave you your first glass?
I was in primary school. And
primary school.
Yeah, I had a friend that was super advanced. She was my best friend.
Yeah.
So they very advanced. She's English. She had her own cottage. She had a bar, like a fridge with savannas and all of these things. So I went to visit her. She was like, "Oh, you want a savannah?" I'm like, "Okay." And I drank it, but I was like, when I got to high school, it becomes more accessible because you look older. You can go buy your own. So I was around friends, and it's the time we were on experiment. So I did. So we started going out to clubs. Parents thought we were going to the cinema. So
sure. Okay.
We went out to clubs, and of course you started drinking. I was like, this is actually nice.
Yeah.
It's like I don't think about anything else. I'm just like vibing to the music. I'm sure people understand. Like you just zone out and you like, it's just the conversation. This conversation's so interesting.
And you become so intelligent.
Yeah, you meet new people. It's easier to speak to people.
Yes.
So then I started liking that feeling. So it started off fun.
Yeah.
Just experimenting. And then it became serious. Because I was like, okay, then I started drinking when I'm not at the clubs.
Yeah.
Then it went from like your ciders. So I continued with Savannah because that's what I knew before. And you want to seem smart, like you've done it before. So I was like, oh no, I'm just have a Savannah. So Savannah went to Hunter's Dry. Then it went to vodkas, and then alcohol was having a less effect on me. And then went to straw rum, and then straw rum, it's terrible, and it's potent.
Yeah.
So then I started like having that at home. Yeah, so I think when something becomes a coping mechanism to escape from, and then a friend introduced me to weed. The weed, I didn't like it, but I still done it.
Yeah.
But my preference was alcohol. That's how I escaped, and I also escaped through self-harm. So I would like cut myself just to help ease the pain.
Sure.
So that's what I would do. That's how it started.
Yeah.
So when you do anything, whether it's food, whether it's exercise, some people use exercise, so they exercise like crazy.
Yeah.
To just substitute that. Or some people work. They dive themselves into work and they don't rest. They don't do anything. They just work. So that's the same coping mechanism. Some people use drugs. Some people use... So any coping mechanism that is excessive, it's not healthy.
Shoo, thank God you're cutting yourself. Did you end up in hospital several times?
No.
Or was it not that hectic?
No, I didn't cut to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I
was
cut to
make a
alleviate-
statement.
Not a statement even.
Yeah.
Like I just covered it. I just cut it to help myself cope. Like sometimes, and that's where you find a lot of people cutting. Many people don't cut to commit suicide, because if you want to commit suicide, then you have to really,
look for the
and
vein.
just-
Yeah.
But many people do it because the pain inside is so much, where you feel numb. So you just want to feel some sort of relief. That's why many people self-harm. So that's why I done it, because I just didn't know how to cope. It's like, can I say? It's like adrenaline. It's and it's obviously unhealthy. Like I did clean everything, and I was even smart about it. Can you believe it? Because I don't want to get infections, things like that. But I didn't do it to. The suicide came with overdosing and walking in front of a car, trying to drown myself, that type of things.
Sure.
But not cutting. I don't know.
Yeah. And how did you get out and realize, this escape mechanism is just not working, and it's not giving me the result that I want? Because ultimately you wanted a result of dealing with the trauma, dealing with the triggers, but when or how did you then decide, no, alcohol, it's not working, cutting myself, it's not working, Felicia, wake up now?
I mean, God.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my biological mother, Vanessa, when she was released from prison, so she came from a Muslim family, and she met God in prison. That's how she was able to survive it. So when she came, I was more angry at God, because I was like, where's this God?
Yeah.
He allowed so many things. So I'm not interested.
Yes.
So when she came, she would always speak about God and what God done for her. Then she became a minister and all of that. But I was like, if it worked for you, then cool. And she would take me to church, and I was like,
not for me.
No. And because I was happy with my anger.
Yeah.
I was happy with my disappointment, so I'm good.
Yes.
So when time went by, and when I was 19 and that memories hit, so then I really, at this point, I was writing letters to my family, because previously I tried to commit suicide several of times, but it just didn't work out. But this time I was like, because I didn't want my family to find me like physically distorted, like if my arm is, you understand?
Yes.
I didn't want the gooey, I wanted to just look proper.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to I'm telling you the thinking that went into it. I didn't, because already suicide is a big thing.
Yes.
Now when they kind of look at me, and I was like, nah, at least they can, say goodbye in a way, nicely.
She still looks cute.
Yeah, she still looks okay.
She didn't do it, but she's still beautiful.
Yeah. And then at this point, I was like, you know what, however they find me, I've tried my best to stay on this earth for them, but so at that point I was prepared to do anything, even though my body looked terrible.
Yeah.
Because I was really at the point where I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't bathing, I wasn't eating. I was really in a bad position, and I met a girl at university, and she came to cook for me, clean for me, all of these things. And so one day my mother Vanessa decided to visit, because I was living close to campus.
Yeah.
So she came to visit, and then she came and she's like, Felicia, it's either you sit here and feel sorry for yourself, or you get up and make a difference with your life. And she told me about Jesus, and she was explaining what he can do for me, how he died on the cross for my sins, and how much he loves me, and that he can help me. And then I was like, I was more angry with her because she told me what she did. And she just walked out of the room. So I just sat there. I was like, okay, Felicia, you've tried A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's not working.
Everything failed.
Maybe try Jesus before you plan your ultimate exit.
Departure, yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me do this. If Jesus doesn't work out, I'm definitely going the other way. And then I called her. I'm like, okay, I want to. Then she led me through a prayer, and for the first time in my life, instantly, the loneliness, like I had this internal loneliness that nothing could fill, you know, and that's why I haven't gotten bad relationships, because I wanted to fill that.
Yes.
And it couldn't be filled by no one, not even my siblings, not
a human being.
And then at that moment, it was the realization that I'm not a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, that I'm not alone. Like, I was made with a plan and a purpose. Like, God knows the hairs of my head.
Yes.
If he knows all of that, that means that
there's
possible.
Yeah.
You know? And from then on, I decided to, I was like, okay, I don't think alcohol is healthy for me.
Yeah.
It's a dependence. Don't I need to depend on God? So this is obviously a problem.
Yeah.
So then I gradually, I actually learned that I was an addict in school. And I understood mental illness at school because I was doing psychology. And one lecture, they were speaking about addictions. The other lecture, they were speaking about depression. Was the first time I actually understood what depression was. And by that time, I was like diagnosed 3 years prior.
Sure.
And I didn't understand. So when I understood, and I was like, okay, no, it's possible. So it took me a while I reduced slowly. And so I took my time. I didn't want to, and I went on my healing journey. I think the first thing was to forgive everyone else, but the most difficult was to forgive myself. When I finally understood how precious my life was, I couldn't believe I wanted to take it away.
Sure.
So that was the hard part of it. And everything I'd done to myself, you know, every terrible word I said, because I hated my skin color, I hated my hair, I hated everything about myself. So even that, I had to forgive myself, and I had to learn to love my skin color, to learn to love my hair, to love who I am, to embrace my story. So it was a journey. It's a journey.
Sure. Okay, tell us about your youth work, youth mental health development. You know, your Felicia Goosen wellness. Tell us about that, because I'm sure it stemmed from you healing and forgiving yourself, and then you'll be able to teach other people, because like they say in an aeroplane, help yourself first before you help the other passenger. So I think you got to a point where you had forgiven yourself, and now you want to be an advocate for assisting other youth. Tell us about that work that you do.
Okay. So when I was in university, so I had to drop out because financially it wasn't working. So then I started...
What were you studying in university?
I started with IT first, and then I changed from IT to psychology and child and youth development.
Why IT?
My foster dad is IT. So I wanted to be like him. And they did tell me that, Felicia... So I studied IT for a year and a half. And then I was like, I'm not walking bare feet. After programming, I'm putting the laptop aside. Maybe this is not
for you.
And then I had to change. I changed, and of course that's wasting money, and so it was very difficult to change. But then I was like, I cannot live the rest of my life behind a computer.
Yeah.
And then I was the only IT student that had psychology as an elective. So that's where I was like, I think this is psychology, and I want to do this.
Yes.
So,
yes.
and I changed it, and then, 2 years in, dropped out. And at that time, I started a project in the informal settlement. It's called Jewels and Gems. So I was helping young people with identity. I was helping them with like sex education, with hygiene.
Yes.
So I then wrote my own programs, and we had it even in the Eastern Cape. So we were doing more areas and then training facilitators, and that's what I was doing. And I realized, okay, then I volunteered at Pusasa. I'm not sure if they're still existing. So it's a secure care for boys. And then I designed an intervention program. And then I realized, like, whoa. Let me tell you a funny thing. I think this is funny.
Yeah.
So with Pusasa, right, they do a whole check. So I was really worried. So I asked my mother, Vanessa, if I have a criminal record. But innocently, I thought I had a criminal record. Because I was born in prison. And she was laughing, and I was like, but I'm serious, they're checking me.
Yeah.
And she's like, no. So that was like, that was funny. And when I got there, I realized when I was speaking to all of these boys, it broke my heart. Because they in a secure care center, and there's gangs in there. There's some of them, they've done mini fraud, and now they're part of gangs. You know, they come from good homes, and when I asked them, many of them rejection from a father, especially, rejection from the mother, because the mother's angry at the father.
Yeah, and take it out on the kid.
So I realized that if I can help young people, so that for me, I was like, I want to work in prevention.
Yeah. Yes.
If I can help young people realize that their worth does not come from their parents,
true.
does not come from their friends, it comes from who you define yourself as. And maybe your mother rejected you, maybe your dad rejected you, but what matters is if you reject yourself, you have to deal with the pain.
Yeah.
You have to and maybe see, and that's the biggest lesson that I've learned in life. When I was done with the book, I realized that I spent all this time living in or expecting something that I thought would make my life complete, and then meeting it, and it did not. And then I realized all those times I cried at night, all those times my belief that biological parents will make your life better. And then I missed out on my foster parents, and with my foster mom who passed away a few months before my mother Vanessa was released from prison, was the hardest thing, because now you can't have both. You have to lose one to gain one. And I realized that I can never get that back again. So many times we live in a world that we think this is how things are, but all my life people that wasn't blood related loved me, you know, in every moment. So to teach young people that yes, we might not get something from this person, but there's this other person that will give you that love that you want. And those who have parents, some of them have both parents, but they might be alcoholics. Grass is never green on the other side.
True.
So what you have in your hand, yes, it does hurt, but let's create a safe space in your room. Do not take your own life because of your parents. Don't cancel your future because of your parents. So it's teaching them resilience, because resilience is learned. So if you teach them resilience, they're able to get up when they're knocked down, and know that it's not because they are the problem, and having the wisdom to deal with it and work through it. And then I also advocate for breaking intergenerational trauma, because you find that the kids today, 95% they're struggling because of intergenerational trauma. Their parents have been raised a certain way and they didn't heal.
True.
And it goes and it goes and goes. So also we're trying to break it. Yeah, so their kids don't struggle with it. And also encouraging parents to heal. It restores relationships. As we're seeing all over South Africa, families are breaking up. You know, there's less and less stable households.
True. There's just so much pain.
Yes.
And it's and nobody wants to speak about it, because I don't want to be, you know, the one that raises the issues in the families, because I'm going to hurt certain people. Whereas when issues are discussed and when you talk about things, it actually it pricks that bubble, and when it bursts, as much as it may be painful, but it in a way it helps with healing. Yes. Slowly but surely.
It brings restoration.
It does. I hear you. Okay, so from your book again, I'm going to read an extract. You're still with Precious Moments. My name is Busisiwe Nomaswazi Gunene, and I'm with Felicia Goosen, the author of Prison Child. I'm going to read an extract from the book. It says, "For a very long time, I was in a deep black hole. After I returned from a missionary outreach in Lajiao at the age of 24, I finally found closure. I let go of my emotional baggage and found healing." Tell us about that.
So amazing when you're reading these.
It's
I was like
I'm reading somebody else's book.
I'm like, wow.
Did I write that?
Yes. So the last day visiting the prison, so we packed these, my mother sponsored some like snacks, so we packaged them and I dropped it. So walking out, I had an empty bag on my back now.
Yes.
And I just felt in my heart that, yeah, it's like over. It's finished. And that was major. It was major for me. And after the book, it was like I just started living. I was telling my friend the other day, it's like a new slate. It's like the weirdest thing, but I believe that's what healing does. I feel like I've just started living. All that, those who struggle with mental health or mental illness, it's like your brain is always just in turmoil.
I think people with bipolar, we may tend not to understand what they're going through. I think it's the closest that we can maybe say, you know, there's a bit of mental illness and there's a bit of mental health issues there, because I don't know, help me here. People with bipolar, they're not aware of their aggression when certain things don't go their way, but within a blink of an eye again, they're back to normal. I always, you know, find that, you know, there is some sort of mental imbalance, but it's not one where, you know, you need to go and be in a hospital and be booked in for a month or 2 months, because it's I call it a touch and go. I don't know if I'm explaining
but it depends. Like, it's the same, like
for some people,
like
maybe
those people diagnosed with anxiety disorder or depressed, major depressive disorder. Bipolar is a different illness, right? And that is like you have high highs and low lows. Not everyone is aggressive. It depends on, maybe they have undealt with things, or maybe if they're not diagnosed yet, maybe they're not bipolar. You know, if you don't deal with things, your mood is up and down. You know, you get triggered in so many different ways. So that is why at FG Wellness, right, my online company, we focus on mental health. So mental health, it's like health. Health means that you can be healthy with the presence of a disease or infirmity. So let's say you're diabetic. So you can be diabetic and you can still be healthy. by taking care. So mental health, you can have a mental illness and still be mentally healthy. You can, so mental health prevents mental illness, depending on where it comes from, because you can get it in different ways. So that is why we promote mental health, because we focus on, okay, with what you're struggling with, how can you still live a life that will be fulfilling, a life that will be worth, where you'll feel worthy, where you'll feel like you have something to contribute to society. Like mental health is defined as you're able to cope with normal stresses of life. So if you are in a car and you always have road rage, for example, there's something wrong there. Right? Or if you get to work every day and you're like unhappy, or you get triggered and your whole day is upsetting, and then you take it on everyone. There's something wrong there. And the other one is when you work fruitfully and productively. So are you working fruitfully and productively? Oh, that word. And you're able to contribute to your community. You know, are you able to contribute to your community? Do you stay locked up? You know, so many things that and there's 5 areas of wellness we focus on. Number 1 is your physical wellness. Doesn't just mean eating, it means sleeping. It means water. You know, it means those things. Emotionally and psychologically, do you sweep things under the carpet? And pretend that it never goes away. It will catch up with you. And the more it stays in your mind, it will affect your body. Stress causes strokes, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, asthma. All of these things, we're making our bodies sick. Thirdly is social, right? Are you socializing? But also, are you socializing with people who build you?
With the right crowd.
Sometimes, and especially if you're the type of person, like I used to do that. I used to surround myself with people that needed help, because I wanted to escape my own pain. So I was never around people who challenged me to pick my pain out. You know, I always wanted to be a savior, help people, to ignore myself and my own pain. So if you're doing that, you need to heal. So you have to be in socializing circles that build you, that encourage you, that challenges you. And if you're not socializing, it's also a problem. Fourth one is environment. What type of environment do you have at home, at work? We're in control of environments, and maybe your work is toxic, but you can actually build your own environment around yourself. Fifthly, I always forget the 5th one. Environment, social. It will come to me.
It will come.
It will come.
It will come.
It will come to me.
I'll remind you. Let's continue. So 2010, your mom is released from prison, coming back home. How did you feel, and how old were you?
I forgot how old I was. I was 15.
So the country was excited. It's the World Cup. Was it before or after the World Cup?
It was during the World Cup. Yeah. 2010 was a miserable year for me. In July, that's when my mother who raised me passed away. And my mother Vanessa was released on the 30th of October, one day before I turned 16. So she called me on my 16th birthday. So for me, I was grieving. And then in between that, my biological father came to the house and told me he's my father. So of course it's like, oh, someone came from the dead. My dad. My dad. And then I was dealing with that. I was dealing with the media. Media can sometimes be cruel, very insensitive. They were pestering me. They were calling me. They were threatening me. Yes. I didn't have great experience with the media. They wanted to know when my mother will be released. But we had to do it in such a way so they don't know, and we only had one news broadcasting that would come through. Yeah, they said they'll rock up at my school and embarrass me.
What?
Seriously, yes.
I'm shocked.
Yes. And I mean, I was a kid. So I had to change my number. I don't know how they got my number. At that time, I was in unbelief that she's really coming back, because all of the years I waited and waited and nothing happened. And then the other part, I was thinking about the worst that could happen, like the plane will crash, or when she comes out, they might just shoot her. So I said, until she's in front of me, I'll believe it.
Yeah.
I was nervous. And yeah, she came, and it was like, wow, this is weird and exciting. And I think everyone was so emotional.
Who's everyone?
Everyone was, my family raised me.
Mm-hmm.
Her family was there. It was the first time I met a lot of the family. First time I met my grandmother and my aunt at the airport, which obviously brought another aspect, like, oh, okay, now they all rock up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of emotions. I passed out at school. At that day I was about to pass out, and I just like, so when I'm nervous I like sweat so much, and I just go dizzy. So then she came out, and yeah, I think it was all over the news. I had to go back to school. Then of course you get some people who bully. So I was never embarrassed. I just didn't want to explain myself to people.
Yeah.
So people thought I was embarrassed at school. There were girls that would bully. And then they printed the whole articles and sent around the whole school.
Lord.
Yeah, so it was a lot. And then, of course, we had to get to know each other. So you remember I said that picture I made up in my head?
Yes, yes.
Totally opposite. So I'm very quiet, very introverted. She's extroverted. She's expressive. She's not soft-spoken. So I got the shock of my life. And in prison, we only had a short time, so there's no fighting, it's just like house school, normal, monotone.
Yes.
I don't think she could express herself, and there were times I went and she wasn't doing well. She was suffering with depression. So my parents sent me to just give her hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was totally different. It was a new experience, but it was like, wow. And it was, I think there were just so many people there, and the whole country was involved. So it was the whole country, because they followed her story, like since she was in Miss SA.
Sure.
So it became a country affair.
Yeah, if only they had put a paycheck there.
Well,
interesting. Okay, and then the relationship. How was your relationship, the reunion with your mom? Did you guys hit it off immediately? Or whether, how do I, speak to you?
That's
walking around eggshells.
I think not walking around eggshells. I think it was weird. I think internally I knew I don't really know her, but you have the belief that you know her because you visited a few times.
Yeah.
And it was only when I became older, I realized I actually did not know her for so long. So I was more focused on her adjusting than myself.
Yeah.
I mean, she experienced warm water after 6.5 years.
Sure.
She experienced sleeping on a bed after 6.5 years. So I think I was more fascinated and watching her be so grateful for trees, for freedom, for having to adjust a lot of things. There was a time where she had peaches in her room, and I was like, why do you have peaches in your room? Because they were going off. I'm like, you can put it in the fridge. And she's like, no, but someone will take it. And I said, no, we can buy more. And she's like, oh yes. So in prison you had to really take care of what
every little thing that you have,
because you can't just go and buy again.
Yes.
So it was that when I took her shopping, she went from aisle to aisle, looked at everything, took pictures of everything. I think we were at the store about like 3 hours, 4 hours in the store, going from aisle to aisle. So for me, I was just so fascinated to see her react. And I think I was just more there to support her.
Yeah.
And then when time went, I think that's when we realized, we don't know each other. Because she would speak loud, and I mean, she had to survive in prison, so
yes,
the way of speaking was different. And I am very, don't scream at me, I will cry. Speak to me.
Yeah.
So it was very rocky. And I expected her to be this mother, compared her to my mother raised me. And she expected me to be this daughter. And then for our relationship to work, we had to accept the fact that we don't have a natural bond.
Yeah.
Our lives are different, and I guess it was hard, I'm sure, for her. So we decided to see how things work as, friendship. And that's where we started to get to know each other, because we don't have that heavy expectation.
Yes.
So that's where I said sometimes we ruin things because of how society says life is, or how. So that worked for us, and we both had to heal, and then heal parts together.
Yeah.
And then also with my biological father, I chose to have a relationship with him. Because one thing I've learned in life is I don't want to regret.
Yeah.
So I said, let me try. If he disappoints me, then I will be able to deal with it. And it was hard because he's an African man, so he's culturally different.
Yeah.
As well. And I was raised very free spoken,
Westernized.
opinionated. But it was very interesting, and I finally got to know different parts of me and why I am naturally the way I am, like Mozambican people. They're very chilled, I'm very chilled.
Yeah.
So he's Mozambican.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I met the family there, I was like, makes sense. Very organic, very friendly, laid back. I was like, wow. Yeah, and I realized, we have the same nose. We have the same eyes. So at 16, that was fascinating to me when I met my cousins from him. We like the same thing. We love butterflies.
Yes.
So that
now
was
you've
my
got
first.
family.
Yes.
That you can relate to.
That, but then relating on relationship way.
Yeah.
That was with my other family. So it was this weird thing. Yes, I relate now, and I thought that would also fill a void, but it didn't.
Yes.
Because my life is intertwined. I was raised by someone different. I was introduced to Thailand, mannerisms that I have, things that I like. It's all very intertwined.
And did your mother ever just tell you why she chose her friend and husband for you to grow up with instead of, her family or your father's side of the family?
So at that time, she didn't trust my father because she wasn't sure if he was involved or not. With her family, they couldn't take care of me because her mother also tried to attempt suicide as well. So I think the environment, so the best
so she was protecting you.
Yes.
She was protecting you. Was it difficult writing the book knowing that you'd have to go back, talk about things like we are now? I'm amazed at how excited you get when I read abstracts from your book. So I guess, the healing has happened. The healing has happened. I haven't seen a tear, so which is a good thing.
Sometimes it tears mostly when I speak about my foster mom.
Yeah.
And I think it depends on the day and depends who's interviewing me as well.
Yeah.
And I guess with the book, I've not read it after. I tried, but I'm like, no, I have not read it after the final. I've read the drafts and the editing, but I have not read the final. I tried, but I was just like, no. You become very critical and
maybe
it's
I should
weird.
have said it like this. Maybe I should have said it like that. Why is that in there? It shouldn't have been in there.
And it's very weird. I put the book at home. I put the books somewhere I don't see it. Because it's weird to see my face on a book that's standing there. And some of my clients have my book. And then they're like, you know how weird it is that you're on my shelf? Yes. And I'm like, yeah. And then my clients sometimes, they're we're speaking about something and they're like, oh, but you at this age.
They're telling you about you.
But how do you know? They're like, but you have a whole book. I was like, oh. And that was the hard part, I think, before it came out, was that people will know the deepest parts of me because I was very vulnerable in that, because I said, if I do it, I need to do it properly. People need to connect. They need to know that, these feelings and thoughts, people have them.
Yeah.
So I was really, because already I didn't like the media, because growing up I was always in the media, whether called child in prison, Felicia born. That was always like the title.
Yeah.
So if you look at the news articles, me growing up, I mean, I was even on Yo TV.
Really? What were you doing on Yo TV?
As a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a
Because
presenter.
of the whole situation. No, they had me on Yo TV.
Yeah.
As
As
like
a topic.
I was like there, like with this whole story.
Yes.
Yeah, that was very interesting. So it was in throughout my life. And then I didn't have a lot of good experiences, as I mentioned, the airport, and then I would get interviewed and the articles would come out somewhere,
Distorted.
somehow.
Yeah.
So I had to build a new relationship with the media. So the book was like, okay, what are people going to do now?
Yes.
But then I had to remind myself why I've written the book. You know, that it's my story. And when you put yourself out there, of course, you put yourself out for criticism.
Yes.
Some people might not believe what you're saying, but the important part is what you believe.
Yeah.
So I realized these great steps being out there is not as easy as people think. People comment about your life.
True.
People think they in control of your life. So it's not glitz and glam, and I always tell people, like, you think it's glitz and glam being on TV, and it's not.
It's not true.
You know, it's hard because now you're in the spotlight all the time. So with the book, I must say, I felt it was a closed chapter when I was done. I felt like finally I'm able to move forward.
Yeah.
And it's a testament, you know, and the feedback I've received from the book, people's lives were changed. People's lives were saved.
That's the most important part.
Families restored. People went to therapy. You know, people started speaking about their emotions, because you need to choose to heal, because we can choose to suffer.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's easier to suffer. Like when I wasn't getting depressed anymore, I was like, where's this depression?
Yeah.
Because it becomes your identity.
And your comfort space.
And happiness was weird. I was like, oh, I'm not getting a panic attack like 3-4 times a day. I'm not on edge all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
What does your mom and dad think about the book?
Which dad?
Both. Biological and foster.
Okay.
I like that.
So I'll start with my mother, Vanessa. She felt that the book was very empowering and inspiring, and she got to know me better.
Yeah.
Because there are things that we didn't sit and talk about. So she got to know me more in the book. And she promotes it. She's like, youth mental health.
Yeah.
My father, Yelton, so he's my foster dad. He's always just so supportive and cute. He said it was difficult, you know, going through a lot of it. Because of course I was under the roof, you know, and many times parents don't know everything.
True.
Right? And but he was proud. He's always congratulating us as his children. Like he's always just supportive. He's just that type of person. He is very kind and loving and very funny. Like very funny.
I see how your face lights up when you talk about him.
My biological father, I don't think he read the book. I'm not sure. I gave all my parents the options. And my siblings, I said to them that I don't expect them to read it, because some people are just not ready. Some people prefer not to, and I said I won't be upset. So everyone chooses. I don't know if my foster dad managed to complete the book. I'm not sure. But I said that's at their discretion if they want to. Like my baby sister, she couldn't. Right. So it also depends. I mean, she's also the one that saw my cuts, and then I stopped because she's like, you know, that face, I won't forget that face. She looked at me, she's like, you cut yourself. Oh my gosh. I just...
You couldn't respond.
And I mean, I'm supposed to be an example for you. I'm supposed to... because my bandage slipped a bit. And then she saw it. And then from that time, I said, I can't do this anymore. And she was also there when I had like my breakdowns. So I took her through a lot. But she's the most sweetest, supportive, amazing sister. Yeah, she's 22 now. So and also other family members, I said to them, and friends, some of my friends just couldn't. And I said, it's okay. So there's no pressure. It's not like you're less supportive. It's just depending on what someone can handle. And some said, I just love that I know where you are now, so that part I'm good.
I can bury that part.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay, just before we... Thank you so much. It's been inspiring, and just reading from the abstracts and also sitting here with you, it does show that you've come a long way, and it's great that now, as busy as you are with your work with youth mental health, you're an international speaker, and CEO of FG Wellness. It just goes to show that life is for the living, and you cannot define yourself based on whatever traumas or whatever bad decisions or bad things that happened in your life when you were younger or in your past, because yesterday is a person's past. Today is for the living and focusing on the future. So I'm going to read the last abstract from the book. I want those who are suffering to realize that you don't have to feel alone. Even if our stories differ, healing is always possible. I hope my story will touch and inspire each and everyone who reads this, those with emotional issues and even those without.
Wow.
That's you, girl. Do you think that you've achieved what you set out to achieve with the book? I know we spoke about, a lot of people say they're inspired, but as Felicia Goosen, because I'll tell you that you've inspired me, but you as Felicia Goosen, do you think that you've inspired and that you've touched and you've assisted in people dealing with their emotional issues, even those without emotional issues that have other baggages that they may have been carrying or are carrying?
Yes, I do. And I feel like it's just the beginning.
Great.
And I think the book, I know the book has so much potential, and I know we're going to translate it in many languages. So I am very excited. We need to reach the furthest corners of the earth. So I just feel it's the beginning, and I feel it was a new beginning for me as well, because I closed the chapter of my life. And like you said, like I always believe we all experience pain. It's just what are you going to do with it? And yes, I'm excited about what the book is doing and what it will do and what it will continue doing. So I'm grateful, and I give God all the glory, because as I said, I was going to give up 2 days in. So I love it that when we don't do things in our own strength, it's for the better for others, to be empowered. And that's what I want people to be empowered and not feel alone and choose to heal. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Felicia, for your time, and thank you for coming to Precious Moments. This really was a precious moment. From here to the future, what is Felicia Goosen going to be up to? Any last parting shots?
I want to go to every African country. I want to travel in South Africa. I want to make a difference in every single country in Africa. And I want like to continue to advocate for youth mental health. I will be super excited when, you know, it really cements, because we are doing this for the future generation. And I want to stand on many platforms. I will stand on many platforms. I will help people heal. I will help people, like I have these embracing masterclasses, you know, helping people through that. Because I believe that everyone should live the life that God has created them to live, you know, and to not allow pain or barriers or things that happen in life to stop you.
Yes.
Because pain is continuous, like we'll always experience something, but to stop you from living should not allow. Life is beautiful. So many opportunities, so many things. It depends on the lens we're looking through. And if you don't heal, you look through a lens of an unhealed place, of anger, bitterness. So my question to everyone is, what lens are you looking through towards yourself and to the world? So that's where I see myself. Like, as I said, I just started.
This is only the beginning.
It's only the beginning. And I love my life while I do it. It's a lifestyle. I don't chase anything. I just want to help see people empowered and live their life. And however that is done, I get new ideas. I have an amazing team that is, you know, supporting me. I have amazing people that love me. I always call them my chosen family.
Yes.
You know, people choose to love us and we choose to love people.
True. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
Lucy.
it's been a
I love the
pleasure. It's
conversation.
been a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Precious Moments. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I hope you've been as inspired as I have been. Felicia Goosen, the author of the book Prison Child. It's never too late to dust yourself up and move forward. Yesterday is just that, yesterday. The future is bright. What lens do you look yourself or your life through? Felicia, so where can people get your book?
You can purchase Prison Child at Exclusive Books, Bargain Books, Kum Books, Amazon. So there's the digital copy as well. And if you'd like a personalized copy, you can visit FG Wellness. So it's www.fgwellness.co.za.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.